My Nextdoor app is full of mountain lion sightings recently, so that's great.
Yikes. Why does my cat insist on laying in the middle of my yoga mat? One of life's great mysteries, I guess.
Well, my cat has some sort of litter challenge going on with all the other cats where she wants to have as much litter outside her box as possible.
Mine do that too. I've had my inside pants inside out all day. Shrug emoji.
Shrug all day. Have such a good day. Hello and welcome to Have Such a Good Day. Whether you like Creedence Clearwater Revival or not, we're happy to have you.
This is our pod where we try our hardest, our darndest to have such a good day.
We certainly do it. We were just joking about rolling on the river. If you're like, Creedence Clearwater Revival, what the hell does CCR have to do with this podcast? Not very much usually. But
And
hey.
you know, that is a little bit dated for us. I mean, I wouldn't say that we grew up during that era.
In fact, we most certainly did not. But CCR was one of those. It's kind of like The Doors. Pink Floyd.
Psychedelic.
Creedence. Steve Miller Band.
Oh, I love the Steve Miller Band.
In high school that
I
were
still love the Steve Miller Band.
well before our time. Fleetwood
Yeah.
Mac to some extent. But like was like a cool thing in high school when people like discovered marijuana and stuff.
Roy Orbison. I used to love Roy Orbison.
I don't know if I really had a Roy Orbison phase, but yes, that checks the box.
It coupled with Steve Miller Band because he opened for them once, and I think that was the first concert I ever went to was those two. And
no kidding.
I remember I got trampled or something. It was pretty sketchy. I think I was like 14. I was like a tween.
You're trampled at a Roy Orbison concert. What a memory.
But if you guys are joining for the first time, welcome. We try to have lively chats for you. We try to talk about the crazy life roller coaster, the ups, the downs, the crazy corkscrews. And we try not to scream. We try to laugh and try to find the humor in all
Yes,
of it.
we do.
Do you like my roller coaster analogy?
I did. It was great. I liked how it was sort of like a tongue twister and a
I know,
roller
it's like
coaster all in one. But yeah, we try not to scream, but it happens.
It does happen. Sometimes it's more offline. Like
Life happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
right before the show, we're always like, let's get our screams out. And, it happens.
blood curling scream, Heather. Come on, we're about to record. Just get
Is
it
it
out of your
blood
body.
curling or blood curdling?
Blood curdling.
Yeah, I think curdling.
Actually, now
Blood
I'm not
curdling.
sure.
I want to say it's blood curdling.
Yeah, because I think it's like the scream is so loud that it's curdling blood like milk. It's actually kind of gross. Now that you're
It's
like, I'm
so
like, "Ew."
gross.
Not really
but a lot of
term
those
I use a
expressions
lot.
are super gross. Like, what's that one? What was that one? It's like head in a war basket. Or wait, what is that one? What is? I used to say that all the time. What was it? The
Head in a war basket. I
Oh
don't
no,
know.
it's gosh, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But another thing we like to try to do on the show is to think about the silver linings, because in darkness there is light. You have to have a moon when you have a sun. You can't have a day without night.
Always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
All of the
Oh,
things.
hell in a handbasket.
Oh,
hell in a handbasket.
I'm like a head in a
Oh,
basket.
and the reason why I said war is because apparently that expression, I think I've talked about this on the show like
You
way
have.
back when.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And hell in a handbasket, it's gross because I think it dates back to like this war, and it's like body parts or a head was in a bloody basket, or it's like something so grotesque. Anyway,
oh well,
Yeah.
yeah. On that fun note, yeah, but as
from
Heather
credence
mentioned,
to blood baskets.
it happens
It runs
in
the
the
gamut.
flash of an eye. As Heather mentioned, we want you to have such a good day. We know that all days are not equal. Sometimes some days are like super great. Some days are the absolute opposite. But we're here.
pits.
And real quick, we did take last week off, and we'll get to that in a minute. But thanks to everybody who sent us nice messages saying we're cool with that. Get your stuff together. We really appreciate that, and we always want to keep you updated on schedule stuff. But we're back. We are
Yay.
back. Yay!
Yeah, it's like sorry, I always think of that scene in The Shining when he breaks through the the bathroom.
And
I've
he
seen
says,
too many horror
"Here's
movies.
Johnny."
Here we are. We're back.
Yeah. Oh, very scary movie.
Yeah, very. Yeah. So how's your last 2 weeks been, Sarah? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has. So we took last week off. So it's been, a couple weeks since we did our sort of like, let's all gather around the fire and talk about how our
The virtual fire, that is.
our last week's been, the virtual fire. It was somewhat non-eventful. I mentioned in our last show, January sometimes gives me like the slight blues, and it's nothing bad happened or anything, but I was thinking as I knew that we were about to record the show, like, what did stand out to me in the last week? I mean, is there anything that stood out in the last week? Because so many of these pandemic weeks they just are a week like any other. I eat, I sleep, I do my work. There's almost nothing to say.
Yeah.
Besides like, oh, somebody cut me off on the road. Woo. But I was thinking about the last time I got on an airplane, because over the last week when I was working on my other show, Daily Tech News Show, which is a daily show, we did cover CES. For anybody not familiar, it's the Consumer Electronics Show. It's this huge trade show that happens usually in person in Las Vegas every January, but this year is virtual because, of course, pandemic stuff. But over the last, I don't know, 15 years, maybe 20, I've been there almost every January, working for various, companies or myself or whatever. And my team that would have gone, and we went last year and the year before and the year before that and everything, we obviously weren't going this year, but we covered it from a distance, which was actually kind of a relief because traveling for work is just not that fun.
The date of CES was always so daunting because it's like early January, it's cold and dark in Vegas, and I never liked doing it, honestly.
And you just get through the holidays, so
Yeah,
you kind of just
it's a
want
weird
like
time.
a bit of a respite, but you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
And for people who are like, but Vegas, I mean, how bad could it be? It's like, when you're at a trade show, like you're not like gambling and like
glamorous.
Partying. No, it's not that at all. You're kind of just like walking a lot.
You're slogging.
And you got backpacks full of gear and you're tired and you want to go
Your
home.
feet hurt.
Yeah. And anyway,
You
so I
never
didn't
eat
go.
well.
Never eat well. No, because it's like it gets to the point where you're like, I need to eat literally anything or I'm going to become a monster, And so like you end up eating like some like weird energy bar and like a like gross apple.
Or like a pale hamburger, like in between like
God.
gross white bread.
Yeah, all of the things. Anyway, so I didn't go, and it's honestly it's quite a relief. Not my favorite trip in a year, but I was like, well, so what's the last time I got on an airplane? Well, yeah, it was CES last year.
Wow.
It has been officially over a year since I've been on a
Wow.
plane, and that, I mean, lots of people are like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, airlines are operating, and if you're like crazy rich, you can like get a PJ or something, but lots of people haven't flown this year. And so I know that it's not super weird to be like, oh, wow, it's been a year since I've been on a plane, but there were just so many years in a row. Not that I like love planes all that much, but I love to travel. I like to go somewhere. I like to get out of my element. I love that. And I realize, wow, it's just been a really long time since I've had that like fun, excited feeling about, like we're taking off and we're going to land. It's going to be totally different.
I miss that too.
Yeah. It's really, I'm not like going to like belabor it too much. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, and we will fly again, and I'll take a beautiful vacation to parts unknown soon enough, and I got to be patient like everybody else, get my vaccine. But it's kind of a weird thing because of all of the, I'm a terrible money manager. I mean, I'm literally penniless, and that's my own undoing, but what I've always spent the most money on really is travel.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that that's part of being alive.
I agree.
And not everybody feels that way, and that's cool, but I do. And so it's just kind of, it's kind of weird to be like, what a strange milestone I just had.
Yeah.
I just haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah, I know it's funny. I there was some movie I watched recently. I think it was like Bullet or something, with Steve McQueen, and there's an airport scene, and it was like, whoa, it looks so foreign. Like it sort of was. It struck me like I have not been in an airport. Well, I the last time I was in an airport, I did Miami around this time I guess that was December, or was that early January? So that was over a year. I guess February, I went to San Francisco. I think that's the last time I was on a plane. I remember because I
Yeah.
met my dad at SFO, and that was around February. But yeah, the traveling thing is interesting. I mean, I had an outing yesterday where we just drove to like an adjacent town and had like a day out where we went shopping and had lunch and kind of had, sangria. And it was a weird feeling. It kind of was that same feeling you're saying, is like you get out and you have an experience, and it was just felt weird. I was like, I haven't done this in a long time. Like even like a
Yeah.
quick daytime outing, with people that I love and enjoying ourselves, actually like not worrying about things and like being happy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's a little bit of like, I mean, I do not consider myself agoraphobic at all, but there is a little bit of we've been, so many people all over the world for the better part of a year now have been trained to be like, don't go anywhere unnecessarily, don't be around
Hmm.
people unnecessarily, wear a mask, do your
Yeah.
part, let's nip this in the bud and then we can all go back to real life. But people
Hmm.
also get trained easily. We as humans are like, you get used to stuff. I know for myself, it's like, I've
Yeah.
gotten used to being like, ooh, do I want to like drive to San Francisco right now? Because I only live like an hour north of there. Why would I? Unless I have like a really good reason, like that's where more people are. I've got a friend in
Yeah.
Oakland, which is equidistant
Yeah.
from here to San Francisco. It's an hour, a little bit more. And there's like a bridge, the Richmond Bridge, that I just hate that bridge. I've always hated it. If you're familiar with the Bay Area, it's there's bridges all over the place. It's an ugly bridge. It does its
I don't like
job,
it either.
but it's just not a fun bridge to be on. You're not like, ooh, yeah. It's like Golden Gate Bridge is like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's like Richmond
It
Bridge
gets
is
you
not that
across the
bridge.
bay.
But normally I would just be like
No.
mildly inconvenienced. Like, oh, I have to go this way, and now I'm kind of like,
Sure.
oh, I mean, I'm gonna visit my friend in Oakland. I gotta go across the Richmond Bridge, and it like is like sprinkling rain. Like I'm not going.
Oh, hell
You know,
no.
it's it's sort of like you sort of become this delicate snowflake really easily because you're like, oh, I mean, it has to be like a super good reason for me to do this like thing like slightly outside my comfort zone.
This is what I'm worried about, and we've kind of talked about this in some sense, but like I think about this a lot where we as humans are good at
Right.
adapting. That's what we're good at if we're good at anything. So we've adapted to this year being on the ground, well, most of us, and we are, yeah, it's like I feel the same way. I'm like, God, like I can't even imagine going out at night. It's like so dark here, and I don't want to. Like I don't even want to go out to dinner. It's like everything's really far. I want to be cozy and
Sure.
warm. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe it's partially the winter, but I definitely have gotten to be more of a homebody. And even all the time that I'm spending like in my office or like my dad's house or whatever, it's like I'm like I kind of miss my house. I want to be in my space because I'm so used to
Mm-hmm.
like being surrounded by my space that when I'm
Right.
gone I feel like I don't want to leave. It's good and bad. I'm a little concerned cuz yeah, I want to be able to like go on a good trip, go somewhere exotic, but I'm also just like a little attached to being home in like a weird sort of, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome or something.
Well, yeah, because it's like we're so used to being like, it's for the best. This is for the greater good. And so you're like, okay, now everything else feels a little weird.
Yeah. But I think that what I like about it, it's like a collective feeling. We've all had a similar year, a lot of us. And so we'll look back on this and talk about it and be like, whoa, remember that crazy year? I do have some friends that have been literally jet setting all year, like as if nothing is wrong with the planet. And I have a hard time relating to that. I feel like it's somewhat irresponsible, but it's also like, it's great for them, but it just feels weird during this time. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I know that if if my mother lives within a short drive of where I live, and if she lived on the other side of the country and she needed me, it's like, all right, I'm going to mask up and I'm going to take a flight. I would have done that. And I know that there are
Yeah.
plenty of reasons that a lot of people are like, I have to get on a plane right now. But yes, I also, there are a few friends
Yeah.
of mine that are in that boat, the same boat as what you're describing, Heather, where I'm just like, y'all, you think this is just like a party? Like, this year is not a party. Yeah, you might just want to rein it in a little.
Yeah, and then just like the sort of like, the posting on Instagram just feels so strange. It's like, I don't even really feel, I don't know, posting on social media is tough now because I don't want to be, I don't know. It's hard to brag or be too showy now.
Right. Yeah, everything feels like an unnecessary flex. Like, people are like
Yeah.
out of work and
Yeah.
like, it's like nobody wants to see your Tulum pictures, okay?
No, no.
you know like, great for you, but like, just
Yeah,
rein it in a
exactly.
little bit. So listen, Heather, I've beaten around the bush because I'm dreading this a tiny bit, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we were off last week, and we were off for a really specific reason. So let everybody know how the last couple of weeks were for you.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It's okay. You don't have to dread it. I mean, I think
Well, it just makes me
I've
sad, but yeah.
yeah, no, me too. And I know you can relate to this. It's very personal, and I feel like closer to you now, like now that I know what it's like to go through this. And I did about a week ago, I lost my father, who was a great friend, and my touchstone. And the planet is not ever going to be the same. I feel like I literally walked out of one door of one reality and into another. And I'm never going to be able to walk back through that door. Like, it's just a totally different world now. And I'm, it's an emotional roller coaster. Like, I'll have, a lot of days where I'm fine and I'm focused and I'm like trying to keep busy, but then something will pop up and I'll, of course, a lot of tears. And I won't get into any of the details about what happened to him, but it was a pretty wild last month. And it felt like a very strange movie. I mean, I keep thinking of the Twilight Zone. I always think of that one episode where it's like Jennifer Jason Leigh's dad, who he goes into a bar and he gets in like a fight, and he's kind of like he's a bad guy. Like, he's kind of racist, and like he ends up in like Nazi Germany. Like he walks out the front door and he's like in a totally different reality. And obviously it has nothing to do with, Nazi Germany or Europe or anything, but it just this totally different reality that you just wake up in. And I have a hole in my heart. I do. It's big, and I know that I'll be able to fill it over time, and it won't all the way fill up because there'll never be another Dado, which is what I called my dad. And the origin of that is when I was a kid, I couldn't pronounce my name, Heather. I couldn't pronounce TH or K. And so I called myself Hedo or Hedu, and instead of Heather. And then my aunt, her name is Aunt Kitty, her Catherine, which is my middle name, but we call her Aunt Kitty, and I used to call her Aunt Titty, which is a kind of a funny family joke. But my dad, he's always called me Hedo because of that, and I've always called him Dado, and there will never be another Dado. So life is sure a mystery, Sarah, but death is a bigger one. And I will say that just like a little bit of a let's talk about him for a minute, because I would like to say that he was a patron, and for since day one,
Yeah.
he's always been so supportive of my work. He used to make popcorn and sit down in the evening and watch Pop Siren, which was Sarah and I's show on Revision 3 way back when. He was our biggest fan. He loved us on camera together. He loved us doing stuff. He wanted to support me. He was always so supportive. He was a great cook. I'm never going to get his food again, which I still can't wrap my head around. He made frittatas and pancakes, and he is a green thumb. He has taught me everything I know in the garden. He's a real intellectual and a voracious reader, but a very altruistic man. Always wanted to make other people's lives better. All of his crew, people around town that he's worked with, they all cried and said that he was a friend, that they supported him or her and their family. And he did. He was very generous. He always had really interesting books stacked everywhere he, sat. In fact, one I found the other day that he was currently reading, this last month, was Opening Chess Moves. And that's so my dad. And that's reminds me of that Queen's Gambit show. But he was a real intellectual, real smarty pants. And he loved cookies. He loved bread and cheese and wine. And he loved foot rubs in the garden. He was a bon vivant. He was a real bon vivant like me. I feel like I got that from him. And I feel like even in my 40s, he loved to father, and he used to tell me, even in my 40s now, he'd say, if I was going on a trip or something, he'd say, okay, honey, just be careful when you cross the street. And I'd be like, Dad, somewhat irked, I'm like an adult now. You don't have to tell me that. But deep down, I always loved it because I knew he was always watching over me. And that's really a tough thing to wrap my head around. But I did spend the year with him. I'm so grateful. We planted lots of things. We are going to continue to keep the garden going for him because it was his baby. And every time I see a bird or a flower, he's there. He's the bird. He's the flower. And I'm now busy being a proprietress. It's my new favorite word. I never really knew that was a word, but
It's the first time I've heard it, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool word. And he told me that about a month and a half ago. He said, you're now the proprietress. You're in the driver's seat. Because I know that he knew that his time was limited.
And he also knew that you could handle it.
He did.
And that's because of him. So, that's something to take with you.
Exactly. His wife told me that he was saying the last few months, he was like, I'm so Heather's so competent and, I feel very comfortable. And I think that he needed to know that, to let go, to know that things would be taken care of. And because he always did that, he took care of everybody. So I'm keeping a lot of emotions at bay because I have a big business to run now. And it's very daunting. I'm still learning. And I think after this year, I will know a lot and I'll have a free MBA basically.
No
but
kidding.
It was so sweet. His cat, Marley, he's a big black and white, fatty, tuxedo kitty, kind of cross-eyed, so cute. He loved my dad. He was always laying in his lap. He was always on his chest when he was reading. He didn't leave his side. He didn't even go down to eat toward the end, but he didn't even leave his bedside. That last month, it was, and you could tell he was heartbroken. You could tell even now, he seems depressed. It's his master is gone. So there's a million anecdotes I could tell you that are touching and heartbreaking. And I'm just going through it. I'm trying to keep my head above water. And Sarah, you've been very helpful. We've been chatting a lot. It's not like Sarah and I haven't talked for the last 2 weeks. We unpack stuff every day. And I'm so grateful for that because I know that you went through this when your dad was younger and you can relate.
Yeah. And yes, it's true. It's, these sorts of things are just, I don't even want to say it's the hardest thing you'll ever deal with. It's something beyond hard.
Oh, beyond.
There's it's you kind of are oh, my entire life is different from this moment forward forever.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that, whether they, kind of lean into their grief or they lean into, the sort of aftermath, kind of what you're saying is there's a lot of business stuff to take care of, and you can kind of keep busy doing that. And that's actually probably a good thing, to some extent. But you mentioned the kind of the hole that will never be filled. And I think that that's a good way to put it. And I don't, my dad died in 2004. It was quite some time ago. It feels like a really long time ago, but that hole will never fill.
No.
It'll never fill. It becomes easier and it becomes more normal that there's a hole there.
Yeah.
And you can plant things around the hole.
Sure. And
watch them flourish. And you realize oh, okay, that hole isn't the end of everything. But it doesn't, you can't make it go away.
No,
you just
can't.
You just can't. And it it is it's a really tough thing, and I know this is very, very fresh for you, and I really applaud you for being able to talk about it so kind of, with your head on straight, because I don't think I would have been able to at the same time, week into it. But like, I even want to cry right now just talking, just because
I know.
it's just like,
Me too.
there's so much. But yeah, I'm I know I speak for all of us when I say how sorry I am and how much you and your dad were very close.
We were. I was a
loved him
daddy's girl.
very much. Yeah.
I really was.
Yeah.
And what's weird too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, I was like, I've been really tight with my sister. She's been up here. Shout out to Vanessa Frank and my stepmom, Nina. And what's weird is that I just had this weird thought the other day. Like, I've always been a lot like my dad, and I feel like I'm the closest person now to everybody who knew my dad. I'm the most like my dad out of anybody in the world now. And I think my sister and Nina are kind of, it's like, that's kind of comforting in a way. You have somebody who's like part of the genetic pool, and it's just strange. And I know I have a lot of him in me.
Person. Yeah, for sure.
No, and trust me, I mean, I've had, I think the month while he was ailing was a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, I must have cried all the tears out of my brain. And so I think I've had a few days of just kind of like, I'm dried up. Like, it's weird. And then it'll come out of nowhere where I'll think of him. And I know that I haven't fully wrapped my head around this. Like, I keep thinking he's going to walk down the stairs, because I'm working in his office at his house. And I keep thinking, oh no, he's going to be home soon. I'm going to hear the garage door. Like, I don't know if I've totally like wrapped my head around it. And I don't know if it took you a while to really understand what happened, like the impact of it, that I'm never going to see him again. It's,
trust me, it took me a while. And some somewhat, I don't know if I'd call them bizarre, but impulsive life choices.
Yeah.
That I now realize, it's because I wasn't totally in my, I was headstrong in kind of a weird way that I didn't realize until later. But yeah, I actually, it's really weird. I think I've even maybe mentioned this on the show before, but when my dad died, again, long time ago, 16 years ago now, gosh, almost 17, I was not a child, but I was in my mid-20s. And besides like a freak accident here and there, nobody's parents had died.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's parents were alive, whether they were together or not, or, the situation that was all very, it just depended on the person. But I remember just kind of being like, wow, I have to kind of deal with this, and no one around me really knows what to do.
Yeah.
Because no one's been through it. And that was okay. I mean, I never faulted anybody for that, but I don't think it's really any different at any age,
No, but I think you didn't have the support though that you might have needed, of like someone to commiserate with.
Well, sure. I mean, I feel like people supported me the best they could, but it definitely felt like wow, no one teaches you how to go through this, and nobody knows what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And, it was very solitary, but I do think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, you being, a couple decades older than I was at the time, and your dad being older than my dad was, like, it doesn't change the grief process at all, because you're still like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. I just did not, you can't prepare yourself for something like that.
No.
You just have to do it and kind of be like, holy fuck, this is like the most traumatic thing maybe ever. And I think that like harder times are coming. I think for me, what is going to be so difficult is when things kind of calm down again, and like I'm outside and I'm planting something that he loved, and which we did this weekend. We got a rhododendron, an azalea, and like this hybrid like Japanese hydrangea. It's really cool.
And he loves those. Those were his 3 favorite plants. We planted those this weekend or a few days ago. And like, it really did satisfy me. I was like, we're doing this for him. It sort of filled the hole like a tiny bit, like, this is for you, Dad. But then, when I'm having a glass of wine, it's like, I think of him with everything. And then that's the problem. Every second I want to tell him something, share something with him, show him something, like texting him, like, and I couldn't even go on Words with Friends because I had games with him and I had to let them expire because I was so freaked out that I can't play Words with Friends with him anymore.
Right.
We played daily. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, is complete broken heart here. And I know I sound kind of sober right now, but I think, again, like, it goes in these weird waves. I was talking to one of his good friends yesterday everyone's pretty shocked. I mean, no one really expected it to happen this fast, but his good friend, really nice guy, I met him years ago, and he lost his parents, and he said there's those people who have parents and those who don't. And like, kind of just to distinguish between the two, it's like, you're a human with parents and then you're a human without, and you're just different people because of it. And I thought that was really interesting. And, there's never, ever, ever, ever going to be anybody like him, ever. I mean, even if they cloned him, he still wouldn't be,
No. Yeah.
And that's the serious heartbreak is I never going to hear him crack a great joke. He had the best sense of humor. Yeah, it's the ultimate heartbreak.
It is. I think before we kind of push on here, and this is just I'm talking to just sort of the great abyss, but certainly everybody who's listening to the show, some of you have lost loved ones, obviously. Others, maybe you're lucky enough to not have gone through this yet, but you will. I mean, that's just the human
life.
condition. Yeah, it is. It is life. And I don't want to make light of it, but I do think that, and this is something that I've experienced, and I've also, people who have gone through, tremendous loss, have echoed my sentiments that at first, everyone, deepest sympathies, condolences, you got flowers, someone might make you a casserole or, whatever that kind of, air hug version of all of that is. And that's always appreciated. But because, again, human condition, it's like people just have to kind of go back to life.
Yeah.
And what I've found is, nobody owes me, months and years of like, being like my therapist type of thing. But I did find that, after the initial like, oh, this is so awful, I am so sorry, shock and awe, it kind of, people sort of slink back to their lives.
Yeah.
And, those of us who are still reeling, it's easy for somebody to be like, wow, well, that didn't take long, everybody, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you like, I'm not okay, but everyone just kind of went back to their lives. But
Yep.
that's what people do. Anyway, I think I'm being very long-winded about
No,
this.
I like it.
But yeah, I just think if you just kind of keep, top of mind that somebody going through something like this is like, they're not going to be better in a week. They might not even be better in a year.
Yeah.
Or who knows? But
Like,
it's not going to happen real quick.
No.
And, like that whole kind of like, hey, how are you? I'm really sorry. Like, like check in,
Yeah.
check in a little bit longer than you think you need to, because it's not, some milestone that, just gets passed and
Nope.
then we're done with it.
That's actually a really good point. And you've been checking in and it's been great. And honestly, I'd say that's the thing that is keeping me afloat, is just all the support I've had. I mean, yeah, the flowers, the food, the love and the caring and all of it. And the messages, the cards. And I'm having a good day today, but I didn't have a good day yesterday. Like it goes in these really weird waves. And I'm, not that I'm not, I don't want to, act like I'm not sad, because I'm incredibly sad. I feel like my tears are dried up or something. But, he did say one thing about a month ago. He said, when I'm gone, you'll just, you'll forget about it pretty quickly. You'll just move on. And he said that many times, like, well, when people die, life goes on, and it's true, but he's wrong in the sense that my life's forever changed. And, I want him to know that, he will never be forgotten. So.
Of course. Yeah. I think no matter what you think about life after death, there are many theories.
Yeah.
And I don't even really know what my theory is at this point. But my theory basically is that I'd have no theory. But but yeah, that sort of, you are now no longer here. Everything is a memory. Is it a joke that you told? That flower that you planted, are there recordings of you somewhere where I can hear your voice again? Or anything in between. Like, all of that stuff still remains, but it's all of a sudden a memory.
Yep.
Rather than a thing that is associated with a living person. It's a fucking crazy, it's a crazy thing.
It's an acid trip experience. And, I saw some video clips of him the other day, and it really just made the tears flow again. Because you see their body language, you see their life, and you hear their voice. And one thing I'm so grateful for is I saved like 50 voicemails from him over the years. Like, I have stuff way back, like I think 2017. And I'm so grateful. And I'm not listening to him now because it'll totally make me cry. I have to wait, but I'm so grateful I have that. I had my friend Jill told me when her dad passed away, she wished she had some recordings of his voice, because she used to have these long conversations with him on the phone, and that was what she missed more than anything, is his voice. And I right that day, from that day, that was years ago, I started saving voicemails. So thanks, Jolita, for that advice.
Oh, that is really good advice. I don't even really know I definitely had a cell phone when my dad died, but it was so long ago. I didn't have anything like that. But when I was much younger, and in fact, I can definitely credit my dad for, the job or the career that I have now is, he would sit me in front of a tape recorder and like press record and be like, just talk. I mean, there was like 100 tapes of me.
Oh, that's cute.
Sometimes just me by myself, or me and my dad, or my mom was around, or like if a friend came over. And, over the years, it got like a little bit like fancier. Like, I, at some point, got a stereo with a microphone for my birthday. Like, I was like 6, like this was, he was very into like recorded things.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was. And, I am to this day. And photography, kind of same vein. Just making memories,
You're very much like that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, gosh, I have literally one place that I can play a cassette, which is an old Walkman. Today, I really need to get some old cassette deck and take it a little bit more seriously. But I mean, I have boxes. Literally every time I move apartments, like half of my boxes are cassette tapes.
That's great.
And
you
it's
should
like,
keep them.
Well, I will. I mean, I would never throw them out, and I haven't listened to them in so long, but so many of them are like, I remember, because I not only would record stuff, but I'd listen to it over and over and over, and sometimes like record over like a certain part and like try to get like kind of creative. And he would occasionally show up in those tapes, because he'd kind of wander in, and he always liked that I was doing this.
That's cute.
And you hear his, and he had a really very, very, very deep voice, very radio voice. He should have been an announcer, but yeah, like I remember some of those things just right the second as I'm talking about it, because it's like, it was just such a like very, very ingrained part of, my life. And it does, again, feel like a memory, but it's something that I still have.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
And that's important.
I think so too. And it's just their body's gone, but I just can't help but think that, I mean, I don't know, like the soul, the spirit is somewhere. It's in the surrounding, flowers and birds and trees and the wind. And especially where I live on his property, it's a very special piece of land that he absolutely adored and wanted to die there. And he's everywhere. I mean, everywhere I look, I'm like, oh, I remember when he planted that, or that, you know, that's his favorite berry. And gosh, there's so much more to say about it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to belabor it. But again, thank you all for being so supportive. And you guys are good friends, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to be back. It's good for me to focus on something else now and get my mind off of things. So thank you for letting me do that.
Well, and I'll tell you, everybody. I mean, I told Heather. Obviously, we took last week off. It just, there was no real other way to do it. But I was sort of like, I mean, you could take a month off if you want to, And Heather was like, no, I really want to do the show. It's fun for me. It's therapeutic. It'll kind of bring me back to reality a little bit. Yep. So, and I totally get that, and I think that. I'm really amazed by your strength, and
thank you.
I know that everyone listening feels the same. And yeah, everybody who's just been so supportive of us, through thick and thin, all this time, highs and lows. And we just appreciate you so much.
And I'm so grateful that we can talk about this stuff on our show, like on our little pod. And not everybody has a podcast that they're talking about politics and history and I don't know, cooking, but like we get to talk about life, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, I am too. Well, so
moving on,
switching gears just a it kind of makes sense. Heather, you mentioned there's some business stuff that you're trying to wrap your head around, and just having to deal with a lot of details, and we all do that to some extent. I am, I always joke about not being a great money manager, which is very true. But I used to, when I was, I don't know, younger, and everybody used pen and paper, and I know some people still use pen and paper. Heather, you're one of them. But like, I'm just I want to be wireless all the time. I never want to see a pen. I never want to see a piece of paper. I never want to write cursive. I want everything to be digital. But I know that that's actually sometimes not the best way to retain information.
Yeah.
Like writing a to-do list out, with my left hand, smudging the ink, with my notepad is the way that I used to do everything. And at some point I was like, this is stupid. Why am I like wasting paper? And like, just there's pen, ink is everywhere. When you're left-handed, you always have ink smudged all over your body. And so I got away from that, but I never really figured out a to-do app that replicated it. And I still haven't really, but what I do, which is like just the most rudimentary option available, is I open a text edit file. I use Mac OS, so it's text edit, but it would be like, Word or Notes or, any sort of other app that you could get on other operating systems. But I open one, I save it like Sarah to do January, whatever, 2021. And then I just write a bunch of stuff down. And I like sometimes come back to it, and sometimes I just like start a new document because I'm like, I don't even remember where that was. It's just a mess.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like I'm trying to replicate what I used to do, but because of just, I don't know, our computer worlds, it doesn't really work that well. And I feel like I'm not really remembering things in my brain as well as I would if I would to write something out. So this is not necessarily the solution, but if anything I said has resonated with you, like, yeah, I've got the same problem, like too much structure, I'm like, I don't need that much. There's some solutions that people have given me where I'm like, no, this is like just like way too much.
You're like I don't need Trello to like keep track of my to-do.
Yeah, like Trello's one example of many where you're like, it's like almost too much project management for yourself. I just need to like remember what to do today.
Sure.
Anyway, so one of the options that a friend of mine he is very rigid about project management for himself, like to the point where, he laughs at me and I laugh at him. And I'm like, how do you live? And he's like, how do you live? Like, how do you remember like to get up in the morning? But he suggested an app called Workflowy. So it's like workflow with a Y, workflowy.com. And the particular tool is called List Maker. And what it is somewhat of a, what seems like a free form, like I'm saying, like you open up that, empty notes file and you just start writing stuff down or bullet pointing or whatever you're doing. And that's exactly how it works, but it is saved to the cloud. There's a paid version, but the free version lets you, like, I don't know, add like 250 notes a month. I'm like, I probably wouldn't even ever go over that. So I'm definitely recommending it because I think for most people it could be free unless you want to like go a little bit crazy. But the notes themselves, you can assign attributes to so that you can, well, you can stick to a calendar. You can, if I make a note that Heather needs to know about, like, I can, set up some sort of a deal where you would get that note if it's in a particular category. Let's say, we were talking about, I don't know, something about plants or a house or the show or whatever. There is actually, it's pretty dense. It's as simple or dense as you'd like it to be. And I just found out about this like a few days ago. So I'm in my early stages, but I think it's kind of cool, especially for someone like me where I'm like, if there's too much structure, I'm just not going to use this.
Yeah.
I have a calendar, I got my notes. I don't need things to get like too crazy or else it turns into something where I'm like, I'm not having fun anymore.
Yeah. It's
like
too much work to keep it up.
Well, and the kind of like, the somebody who's like, oh, I'll have like a call with so-and-so at 2 p.m. tomorrow and I want a reminder, at this, that, and the other time, and then maybe we have to reschedule. It's like all of that stuff happens. That's natural part of life. But there's like an organic quality to like rescheduling and replanning that I have to do, or else I just feel like a robot's like, has taken control of my life a little bit. Like I kind of almost want to do it the hard way a little bit so that so I don't miss anything. Anyway, Workflowy, if anyone has used this or I don't know, checks it out after me mentioning it and has any thoughts, please let me know, and I will check back next week and let you know, because I think it's a pretty non-intimidating way to perhaps make that to-do list a lot smarter.
I'm so excited about this, Sarah, because I'm a big fan of clever ways to stay organized. And it's funny because I have a whole new world now that I have to organize, not just my own world, but my dad's world. And I'm definitely going to check this out. I wanted to mention, like, my ways to stay organized that I've used for years are pretty simple. I have notes on your, you can have it synced to the cloud and you have it on your computer and you have it on your phone. And I pin a note. My first note that's always at the top is my to-do list. And it's quite hefty. I mean, it's not just to do, it's like my shopping list. So whenever I'm like, oh, I'm out of matches or I want a new candle, like I'll mark that down.
How often you're like running out of matches?
Well, in the country where we are, for example, our cabin people who are staying in our Airbnb, they pinged me and said, we're out of matches. Do you have any? And I thought,
got it. Yeah,
oh,
for the
shoot,
fire.
I don't think we do. So I gave them my match box. And then I need to get matches now to replace those. So yeah, that is a weird thing to have on the list. But some of the other things
I get it.
on my list are, I don't know, like look into getting a sun lamp, play tennis again, get a croquet set. Here's a really cool easel if I wanted to get an easel, like things that I want to tab. And, and then I have like at the top, it's like major to-dos, like, wood bin for cottage and planter boxes for blah, blah, blah. And like, that kind of thing. And it really works. I've been doing this for years. And so it's great because it'll update on my phone, then I'll be on my computer and I'm constantly checking it and deleting stuff. But I put stuff in my calendar, like, I'll have like thing where it's like call so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, and then I'll move it if I don't get to it, or like, do 1099 and I just put it in my calendar. It gets a little out of hand. So I'm really excited to try this Workflowy. I like the name and I'm into it because it's pretty rudimentary and maybe I do need something like slightly more sophisticated. So I'm definitely gonna check that out.
You should, and I'll do the same because I'm with you. I what you're describing is more or less kind of how I do
Yeah.
things. And I also, I'll tell my voice assistant smart speakers at home lots of things, and that those get added to lists.
Yeah.
And there, it's like the ingestion comes from a lot of places,
Mm-hmm.
but the kind of organization of it still needs to be simple, or I just kind of I get overwhelmed and I'm like, well, I'm just not gonna do anything.
Me too. And there is something to say for writing stuff down. Like when I actually had a full-time job and I was coming to the same desk every day, I always had a yellow big memo pad. And every day I would redo my list at the end of the day, be like, okay, I cross that stuff on the new page. These are the new things I have to look at the next day. And that actually worked really well for me. And I like to see it and cross it out. It was satisfying. But see, I have like 3 different locations now. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really going to work right now. I mean, I might consider doing that for my dad's biz. I've been thinking about that because there's so much stuff to keep track of. And I kind of need to see it on a piece of paper. Because if I have everything on the computer, like I need something in the physical world. So
Yeah.
I will check out this workflow and I will definitely report back.
Well, excellent.
Well,
Excellent. Glad to help.
Well, I have something I want to talk about that's really, really, really cool, and it's just starting out. It's a new company that my boyfriend created with one of his sort of, filmmaker friends in Brooklyn, and they just launched and they just basically had a press release, and it's called Decanalog. It's Dekanalog, so Dec Analog. And it's a startup distribution company, and I'm so proud of him. It's like I really am. I'm so proud. I've been hearing all the behind the scenes. I see the old logo and the new logo and the iterations, and just how they came up with the name and all the like neat little things behind the scenes. And I'm just very proud of the work he put into this. I think it's a really cool idea. I think it's a great time to do something like this because of just there being a huge market for films, virtual cinemas and digital platforms. It's like all about that now. And it's just, there's such a niche for this kind of stuff. And I just think like striking while the iron's hot, like I just think is really smart. I'm very impressed that they came up with this idea. It's what it is in a nutshell is, they realized that so many international, he's a real film buff. I've said this on the show before. I mean, really the biggest film buff. He knows all international films, over there, over here, big, small. And so many of those international films kind of go without ever being seen because they never really get promoted in the US or you just don't know about them. And so they're trying to create this distribution company of international films kind of with an edge, new and old, and sort of bring it to a US audience. And so they already have a really cool, first slate, really awesome slate. I saw the first movie. It's a very funny kind of absurdist French comedy. I think you would like it, Sarah. It's very, very entertaining. And they're just getting started. So check them out. They have a website. It's still like under construction, decanalog.com, Dekanalog.com. And they have a Twitter. It's decanalog _ all lowercase _ and same with their Instagram. So, this might be of interest to our audience. I thought that, we've got probably a lot of film buffs out there. I know some of you are for sure. Jake
Yeah.
Adams, I'm calling you out. And let me know what you think and I'll keep you posted.
That's really cool. Congrats. Send along all of our congrats to the talented folks in charge. And yeah, as you have mentioned, your dude is a film buff, but obviously, more than that. He actually is trying to change the industry for the better, and that's really, really cool.
No, he's the shit. I have a random question that I want to end with though. Just about an hour ago, my friend Jamie on the Chat Olympics, my friend Chat, she wanted to ask everybody a random question, and I'm going to ask you, Sarah, this random question. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
If you could go, and this is related to kind of your not being on a plane for a while, I think you'll like this question. If you could go only on one more vacation ever, either to a place you've already been or somewhere new, where would it be?
I mean, I think I'd go somewhere I have been before, because I already know that I like it.
Yep, it's comforting.
I think the easy answer is Paris because it's my favorite city ever. I've also been there a lot, so I'm like, ooh, do I waste it and only go there? I mean, I think I'd probably be pretty happy.
You could
but
say France, I guess.
Sure, yeah, yeah, because the rest of Paris is pretty different than a lot of the rest of the country. But
It's true.
yeah,
C'est vrai. That's a good choice.
It's that I'd have to think about it a little bit more because it's sort of like, oh, or like there's this like super dope retreat I went to outside Puerto Vallarta once many years ago, and it's like, I mean, it's pretty sleepy, but I mean, I'd go back there tomorrow.
I'd like to go there
heartbeat.
too, so take me, please.
I will. Let's do it. We'll just like read books for a week.
That'd be
or
so
something
amazing.
And
I
look
need
at the
that.
water. Yeah,
I need a tropical vacation.
In fact, we should actually talk about those.
We really
I thought
should.
about it. Yeah, but
No, I'm actually totally serious. 100%.
So am I. I'm not joking either, Heather.
God damn it, Sarah. But I would probably go to, I think I would choose Italy because it's my favorite country. And I wanted to go back there last year. I was supposed to go back there last year. And I feel like a real connection to it. And I love the food. And I've been there several times in different chapters of my life. And I'd really like to revisit it now. I went there with my dad. And I love olives and pizza. And, I mean, should I go on?
Yeah, right. I know it's like, what's not to like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, Italy would be, it's right up there. I think I've just spent a little bit more time in France, so I feel more affinity to the weird, well, I don't want to call it weird culture, but the very unique culture.
I agree.
That is France. And Italy is different, for sure, but boy, is it nice. And yes, the food, arguably the best in the world.
And there's some wonderful islands that I always wanted to go to in France, like off the northwest. I'm trying to remember the name, but there's some really cute, like not tropical, but they're like, you can go in the water and it's warm and it has a little bit of that like French island vibe. I would definitely love to go to some of those places.
Yeah, I went to Corsica once.
Me too.
With my cousin Molly. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just sort of a weird thing that we decided to do.
Yeah,
while
definitely.
we were
Yes,
traveling
too.
through France and Europe in general, and we were kind of like, okay, here we are.
It's an interesting piece of land, actually. I thought it was cool because it was like you got the beaches, but then you have these really rugged mountains in the middle. It's like really, really tall, like high elevation.
And
it's
arid.
very strange. Very arid, yeah.
Yeah, and there's there's a big prison, and you got these kind of like Corsican gangs, and I mean, not that I was like hanging out in prisons when I was there, but it was like there's some edge where you're like, this is interesting.
And an interesting French Italian dialect too, which I thought was
Very
like
much so,
I could kind of understand it, but yeah, very
Yeah.
cool. Well, we are going to go somewhere awesome very soon. I can feel it.
Yes, we will. We all will. And until we can go in our minds. But what we can do right now is thank everybody for supporting us. Patreon.com/have such a good day is where you can find out more about becoming a patron if you aren't already. We're up to 97 patrons, Heather, and
Oh my God.
It wasn't so long ago that we were like, oh my gosh, we're eventually going to get to 100, and that's going to be so great. And I think about it in terms of people have millions of followers on Twitter, or hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube. Yeah. Oh yeah, me and my millions. But there a lot of that is just it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
It's not you don't have a million friends.
No.
There's just there's a reason that people get to a certain point, or there's celebrity, or stroke of luck, all that stuff. And I feel so grateful that I'm like, I feel like we could have all 100 of us, almost 100 of us. I mean, with Heather and me, we're at 99, but we could all be in a room and like for the most part, be able to like stay on course.
Oh, we
and
could.
be like, we all kind of belong here together.
I agree.
And that is very, not that I wouldn't like to have 9 million patrons, of course, but it's so cool that we're like nearing a milestone of our own.
I agree.
And we just really thank all of you.
No, I love it. It's a little community, and that's what it feels like. It feels like it's like this separate little group that we have that nobody else has. It's our little crew.
ours.
It's our
Yeah.
little posse, if you will.
That's right. We're a proud posse.
We are.
We actually we have a new patron.
Yeah, our 97th patron is a guy named Alex, and sounds like he
Woo-woo!
might be in Britain because he's paying via pounds, which I thought was really cool. We have a bit of an international crew. And then new Discorders. We have a couple new people who joined the Discord. We're stoked. Y Yan P and Jerry B. Welcome, you
Hey,
guys.
Discorders, we are so glad to have you. Let's chat.
Yeah, and Stephen M., who came back to us last show, we mentioned him. He's a patron again. He sent us a note and said, "Glad to be back in the Patreon fold, supporting my girls." I thought that
Aw,
was
Steven,
sweet.
that is extremely sweet, and we know that, it's the nature of the world, especially the current world, that sometimes people gotta, pull back, and I'm the same. There's certain charities that I've had to pull back from
Yeah.
this year because I'm like, I can't really afford that right now, and it hurts my heart, and I'm always really glad when I'm able to
Come back.
to jump back in.
Yep.
Yeah. So if anyone is listening and hasn't been a patron, if you want to consider being one, so cool. If you can't right now, also fine, because we're going to always offer an ad-free, or an ad-supported version of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Patreon version is ad-free, so that's one of the many perks that you get by being a patron. But yes, we get it, and Stephen M. and everyone else who's come back into the fold, really appreciate it. And good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys. And send us a message. Send us anything at all. We just want to hear your voices, or we want to read your writing. And just say hi at havesuchagoodday.com. And for now, until next week, as long as no major disaster happens, fingers crossed, I will say, have a perfect day and arrivederci.
Well, you as well, Heather, and everyone else, wherever you may be, and whenever you may be listening to this, we very much love you, and we hope you have such a good day.